Only one program in college football has won more games than the Georgia Bulldogs in the last 25 years. Dating back to 2000, only the Ohio State Buckeyes have won more games than the Georgia Bulldogs. Not Alabama, not Florida, not Texas, not Michigan, certainly not Tennessee. It's Ohio State. That's it. They are sitting at 277 wins over the last 25 years, and the Georgia Bulldogs are number two, 265 wins since 2000. That's the second most in college football. And that may sound crazy to Alabama fans and Florida fans and Ohio State fans maybe are even shocked that Georgia's number two. But that shows you how consistent, how good this program has been over the last 25 years. They have won more games than Alabama has. It might sound crazy, but we're going to talk about that in just a second. Now, Alabama has more national championships, right? They've been the best overall program. But in terms of consistency in winning ball games, only Ohio State has done it better than Georgia in the last 25 years. Ohio State's number one, Georgia's number two. Boise State and Oklahoma are tied for third with 263 wins. And then comes Alabama. Alabama has won 261 games over the last 25 years. Now, you've got to remember, the Tide weren't all that great in the early 2000s. They had losing records in year 2000 when they went 3-8 in year 2000. In 2003, they went 4-9. In 2004, they went 6-6. In 2006, they went 6-7. And in 2007, they went 7-6. Now, when Nick Saban came around, obviously he took them to a dynasty, one of the greatest, maybe the greatest dynasty we've ever seen that spanned like a decade, right? But before that, Alabama had, some struggles, no doubt about it. So if we're going all the way back to year 2000, Georgia, in terms of wins, has been more consistent than Alabama. So Alabama's at number 5. Clemson's at number 6. Tied with LSU. They both have Clemson has 246. LSU is number 7 with 243. Oregon comes in at number 8, 243. Michigan at number 9, 226. Wisconsin is number 10. Wisconsin has won more football games than Texas, who comes in at 11. USC at 12. TCU is 13. Notre Dame is 14. Florida State is 15. You have to go all the way to number 16 to find the Florida Gators. That's how rough it has been at times for the Florida football program. They've got 2 national titles, right? 2006, 2008. So they have been at the top of the mountain. And in that stretch, it was tough to beat Florida on any particular week. I mean, they had talent all over the place. I'm talking to Georgia fans, so y'all know how good Florida was for a long, long time. You got to remember, they had the Ron Zook era, 2002 to 2004, where they basically went 8-5 for 3 straight years. Then the Urban Meyer era came, and they were crushing it. They were dominant, won 2 out of those 3 titles, and just crushed Georgia for a little bit there, especially in 08 and 09. Then Muschamp came along. He went 7-6 in 2011, 4-8 in 2013, and 7-5 in 2014. Jim McElwain came around. He was 4-7 in 2017. Dan Mullen went 6-7 in 2021. Billy Napier went 6-7 in 22 and 5-7 in 23. And this is where, why Georgia has, been towards the top of the college football for 2+ decades now. They have one losing season that I can remember. I'm blanking on 2000. I don't think they had a losing season in 21. I probably should have looked that up before, but in 2010, they went 6-7, Aaron Murray's freshman year. But that's it. I mean, Georgia wins games. They fired Mark Richt for just winning 10 games a season, right? That's where that program was. It was really good, and they won a lot of games. They won some SEC titles, but the narrative was still, Georgia didn't win anything until 2021, it's crazy. But they did play for a championship in 2012. It just was called the SEC championship, but they played for it, basically. I don't recognize that Alabama-Notre Dame national championship game because it was played in Atlanta, so I'm considering that a championship appearance for the Dogs. They were the second best team in the country that year. 2017, played for it, didn't win it. Second best team in the country. They won it twice. SEC titles in 2002, they were one of the best teams in the country. 2007, they were really good. Won the SEC in 2005. And had some really good years outside of all that too. So every year, Georgia's got a pretty good to really good to sometimes an elite football team. Rarely are they average. Rarely are they below average. And again, since 2000, unless they had a losing record in 2000, I don't think they did, but I'm blanking. They went to the Oahu Bowl. Was that right? Was that last year, Quincy Carter? I'm acting like y'all can reply to me immediately. Let me know in the comment section. But I think they barely had a winning season that year. Anyway, they've only had one losing season in the last 25 years, as I have to type in my password again. But the main point is that as far as consistency goes, Georgia's right there. But Ohio State has been probably, they're that program, and I'd put Oklahoma in that category too, even though they've had some tough years lately where year after year after year, Ohio State's going to be one of the best teams in the country. Now, Alabama's going to be one of the best teams in the country. Clemson had their Clemsoning moments, but they're still really, really good and have been for a decade plus. But you've got LSU, who has an occasional down year, but they've got 3 national titles, I believe, in the last 25 years. Texas has 1. Ohio State's probably a program that should be winning it more than just once a decade as far as the talent they have. Every year, when you're always one of the best teams and you maybe win 1 at the most 2 regular season games, sometimes you don't lose in the regular season. For them I think they have 02, 14, and now 24. So that's a program that should probably be winning it more than they are. And Georgia probably should too, moving forward. Georgia should occasionally win a national championship. They shouldn't be going too many years without one. But Oklahoma, year after year, normally really good, but occasionally have some bad years. But Texas went through some rough spots with some really kind of not so good teams at all. Obviously, Alabama had some years in the early 2000s that weren't great. USC has had some years where they haven't put it together. Michigan has had some bad years where they haven't put it together. Tennessee is not an all-time program better than Georgia. They've had some pretty bad years recently. They haven't won the SEC in, I guess, since 98. The last time their national championship was that the last SEC title too. It may have been. They haven't even won the conference in the last 25 years. Auburn's had spurts of years, but there's been years where they've been completely irrelevant. Same with Notre Dame, same with Penn State. So Florida State, Miami, all of these programs, USC, and they could keep going. They've all had years where it was worse than Georgia's 2010 season, right? And Georgia, they had that season, but you knew there was promise ahead. They signed a really good class in 2011. You knew Aaron Murray was going to be a sophomore the next year, so things were on the up. Things were going back down. 2015 was bad, but they won like 9 games, right? Did they win 10 games with Brian Schottenheimer as the offensive coordinator and Grayson Lambert? I mean, it was bad, but you look at the record and they're still winning most of the games and still beating Auburn and still beating Georgia Tech and for the most part beating Tennessee for this decent amount of 25 years. Just about every year they're beating those teams. They had their struggles with Florida, but again, if you look at the numbers, I'm not saying these are the best, the most earned, right, teams in the year since 2000. That whole sentence didn't make sense, and I apologize. This is not my best video. But Georgia's number 2 in the last 25 years in terms of wins. And they've had some really, really good teams. 02, 05, 07, 12, 14 should have been better than it was if they had a legitimate quarterback or even an above average quarterback in 2014. That's a dangerous team. But they had Hudson Mason and a defense that started to fall apart, couldn't tackle anyone for half the season. 2015 wasn't great. 2016 wasn't good either, but that was Kirby Smart's first year. So Georgia's had a couple of ruts type of season, but they were never just terrible or awful. I mean, they haven't had the lows that Auburn has had, and Tennessee, and even Florida, and a few other programs. We won't see Alabama be that bad probably in our lifetime. They're probably not going to have a losing season ever. There's no reason why Ohio State should ever have a losing season. Georgia, Texas, and I'd throw Florida in that mix too. It is a shame that Florida has, if you're a Georgia fan watching this, you're probably loving it. You're eating it up. You're laughing at them, as you should, because there's no reason why they should have some of the years that they've had pretty recently. No excuse for a program like Florida and Florida State to be just that embarrassing. Are you kidding me? It's really, really bad at times down there, but it's rarely really, really bad in Athens. And when it is, they're still winning 9-10 games. So over the past 25 years, it's hard to find a more consistent program than Georgia. Should they probably have more than 2 national titles? Yeah. Yeah, they should have, but they have two. It took them a long time. It took them 40 plus years to get there. It's not going to take 40 years for them to win their next one. And in 50 years, we might be talking about Georgia still being number 2, number 3, maybe number 1 as far as all-time wins in 2000. And moving forward, they're going to be up there for a long time. The Dogs aren't going anywhere, and they've been towards the top of college football as far as consistently for the last 25 years. A lot of people don't realize that. They don't understand it, but it's something that the Georgia haters are going to have to accept and kind of realize. So thanks for watching this video. Hope you learned something. I'll see you on the website.